expect anything, get hyped. Manchester City, after their performance last weekend, most people are saying they are back. What do you think?
I think so. I think that was always going to be the case, to be honest. For last season, I don't think we're going to see the City that we saw last season. Obviously, with Pep, we can sit here and speak about Pep for hours. The doing business early, the signings that they brought in. That man Haaland looks fit and sharp again. He looks hungry. I think, when we first saw him come in and, he wanted to break every record possible. And he looks like he wants to do that again. And for sure, City will either win it or come second.
Yeah, I thought a couple of the debutants were really impressive. Tijani Reinders looked so comfortable and so easy, settling into the Premier League as if he's been here forever.
Yeah, right. Exactly what I think this Manchester City team... And I've been so impressed with the business they've done, not just this season, but for the last 10 years. They see what they need to do, they go and get it, and it's exactly what they needed. Look, I think last year, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva at times in the midfield, brilliant, all-time great players, they both are. The legs weren't there, and it cost the team. I think Reinders brings you that energy, that enthusiasm, and that drive that he brings. And they looked irresistible again. They swept aside Wolves. They said, I'm not quite as convinced. I still would like to see how they defend at times, because last year, they looked like they were getting taken apart, and they need to sort out that. But I think they'll score goals this year. Well, of course, Man City will score goals, but I think they'll hit the heights as that they got in terms of going forward. But they need Rodri to be back to his best, and that's shoring up the back door.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying obviously Man City are going to score goals, but last season what we saw from them was not the Man City and that we're used to seeing, and we weren't sure if they were going to get back to their level. Now it looks, with Tijani Reinders, as we mentioned, Ryan Cherki was also on the score sheet. It doesn't matter what season it is, though. City seem to have that bogey team vibe with Spurs, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things, isn't it? Tottenham's got a good record there last season, scoring 4 goals. Don't think anyone saw that coming, to be honest. A convincing win like that. But listen, you never know. I think and this is the goal. I think this is the Maddison goal. I remember Kulusevski on that day was unbelievable. But sometimes it just happens in football. There's certain teams that certain players play good against, or certain players always score against. Or I guess it was just one of those things. But on this day, I remember Tottenham especially in the final third, they were amazing. It was such a good win.
I mean, that sums up the Ange era, doesn't it? It's like it could be this. It was also some dreadful days, but going forward on this day, Brennan Johnson, Maddison, Kulusevski, outstanding. But we're looking at a new Tottenham now. Yeah. Thomas Frank's coming, who I think could be the signing of the season. Player, manager. I think he's brilliant. I think he's whatever the great managers that I've worked with have got. Thomas Frank has got it. And I think he's going to go to Spurs and he's going to really kick them on this year. They're my tip to kick on. I think they go there. I'm not sure they win the game, but I don't think they get beat.
Yeah, it's always been a goal fest. The last 4 Premier League games have seen 21 goals. 4 of those have come for Spurs. Now, Pep spoke earlier, reflecting on their last meeting at the Etihad, and he's hoping for a much better performance this time.
The moment I remember was after international break, and we came from 2 or 3 bad results, and now the dynamic started to really not good last season, but it's a new season, new vibes, and the game will be hopefully like last season, the first 50-20 minutes that we create a lot to go comfortable winning, and after, because the Spurs always have been a really, really good team with a good players.
Yeah, the Thomas Frank era up and running at Tottenham. What did you make of their first game? A huge win and a clean sheet as well against Burnley.
Well, not even just the first game. I think even pre-season. I think when you watched Tottenham in pre-season, I think especially the Arsenal game, I just felt like the team looked really fit. And I saw some clips of obviously the training and some of the conditioning that they did. And Thomas Frank, he'll demand that. He drives his sessions. He's got good coaching staff. And just that the ball speed, the energy, and some really good goals. I was happy for Richarlison, to be honest. He's obviously he's been there a while now, and he gets a little bit of stick. Not scoring enough goals, but 2 amazing goals, hard finishes. Kudos, hitting the ground running with the new signings. Kudos, someone who's always impressed me. Brennan Johnson, who's top goal scorer at the club last season, something that he wanted to do and he wants to improve again. So they've got good characters. You know, obviously we've had the injury of Madison, Kulusevski when he comes back, one of our better players. So, like Joe said, you know, it's really exciting, especially with this manager, really exciting this season.
Yeah, that Kulusevski is a big blow for them, hearing that he'll be out for a little bit longer. Mohamed Kudus already settling in at Spurs, already combining with Richarlison for the first 2 goals, the second of which was simply sensational.
Sublime, sensational. It's just it. It's a thing of beauty. You know, Richarlison, he's frustrated Tottenham fans. You know, he's had his injury problems. I heard him say it's the first time in a while he's had a good pre-season, and we know how important that is for footballers. So you might see a different Richarlison. I still think there's scope for him to maybe leave the club before the window starts. I think, you know, Tottenham are renowned for doing mad business in the last 2-3 days of the transfer window. Daniel Levy's be shopping round for bargains, but Kudus is a very good signing. But Thomas Frank's the key for me. I think he settles that club. If he's allowed to work his way, I think you'll see them. I think they'll be the biggest jumpers in terms of final positioning from where they was last season to where they finished this season.
Yeah, they got Kudus over the line. They've had a little problem with transfers, some of them. The most notable one, I can see your face already. You know where I'm going with this. Eberechi Eze, big news this week, was on his way to Tottenham.
So
it seemed like it was a done deal. You and every other Spurs fan seemed like it was a done deal. And then 7 p.m. that night, everything changed.
Yeah, I was so excited. Like everyone else, to be honest. Not just Spurs fans, football fans. You know, he's a special player, and I think it's a special story as well. From, you know, being at Reading released, Millwall released at Arsenal at 14, and then it looked like it was going to happen. You know, I've got friends at Palace. I was asking questions, and then Arsenal come and took him off us. But listen, you know, we want to wish him the best. You know, he deserves it for what he's done, and like I said before, the story, and it shows young players that it's not the be-all and end-all. You know, when you get released, you've got to keep going, keep persevering, keep believing in yourself, and that's what he's done, and he's an amazing footballer.
Yeah, so we've already had 2 North London derbies without ever having one played in the Premier League yet this season. Thomas Frank spoke about missing out on Eberechi Eze and stressed that Spurs only want players who are fully committed to joining the club.
To make it very, very clear, I don't want any players that don't want to come to the club. If they don't want to come to the club and wear this fantastic badge, then we don't want them here. I think that's very clear. And I'm also pretty sure that the fans will feel the same. If they don't want to put the fantastic shirt over their head, play for the badge, play for the club, really enjoy it, no problem. Then we don't want them there. So I think that's a key message.
Joe, you said probably one of the biggest signings of the summer. What are the kind of changes you've noticed immediately under Thomas Frank?
I think the body language of the players. I think Ange, you know, will always, what he's done and achieved and winning the trophy will be in Tottenham folklore forever. But ultimately, the league position is the indicator of where you are as a club. And I looked at that Tottenham side at times last year under him, and I saw body language was dreadful. The players weren't really at it at times for him, and I think he'd admit that because of where the results were. I still think for Ange is a top manager in his own right, but what Thomas Frank is, I think he builds groups. I think he's a real people. I've worked with him at Brentford. I've seen him work closely. I'm doing a bit of coaching there, and I've seen him from afar how he deals with his staff, how he deals with his players, and sets the tone, sets the environment. I think he fits to the club. I think he's an excellent motivator. I think tactically you'll see another side to him with better players around him, and I think Tottenham fans should be very excited.
Yeah, I think we kind of saw that tactical element of him and how he's able to change in the Super Cup and the way he played against PSG.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to move on now because Everton begin a new era at the Hill Dickinson Stadium on Sunday. They host Brighton on a